Sanhedrin Daf Kuf Aleph Amud Aleph. Song, Ose Oto, Kemין. We've been speaking in the last couple of days about the Kedusha of Torah, what sanctity Torah has, and it's not just the Sefer of the Torah, the books of the Tanach, it's every word. The words of Tanach, the words of the Bible have enormous sanctity to them. That being the case, is it right, is it appropriate to use words of Tanach as lyrics for Jewish pop music? Is that what we're meant to do with Tanach? And it leads into the whole issue of music, and particularly music as entertainment at meals and at parties, dinners, where there are two different issues, as we're going to see. The one issue is the question of after the Churban, after the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, we limit the amount of joy that we have, and one of the areas of that limitation is music at meals. And we'll talk about that. But in our sugya, we see there's another issue altogether, and that is the use of Tanach, the use of psukim from Sifrei Kodesh to use for lyrics, even if it weren't for the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. Tanu Rabbanon, we learn, Hakorei pasuk shel shir hashirim v'oseh אותו כמין zemer. If a person reads a verse of the Song of Songs of Shir Hashirim in a tune, till he makes it into a lyric, V'hakorei pasuk beveit mishtaot belo zmano. And if a person even reads a pasuk, this is now even without the music, just reads a pasuk from the Torah, just he quotes it, he mentions it, it's not appropriate, it's not the right time. Mevi ra'a lo'olam, he brings bad things to the world. מפני שהתורה חוגרת שק ועומדת לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא ואומרת לפניו ריבונו של עולם עשאוני בניך ככינור שמנגנים בו ליצים. ריבונו של עולם, the Torah says, oh my God, the Jewish people have turned the words of Torah into a lyric to be played by a rock band. That's what Torah has become. It's become a source of entertainment. And that's what we have to be careful that Torah doesn't become entertainment. And we've talked about the term Torah-tainment, where people use Torah as entertainment, and entertainment's very powerful, and it attracts people, and it gets people involved, but there's another side to it. If one's sensitive, you can hear the Torah crying and saying to the Rebbeinu Shalom, Torah, look what's come to the Torah. It's just another lyric for a rock song. The Goyim have got their lyrics, the Jews use psukim, and it's all the same thing. It's just entertainment. So Hashem says to the Torah, my daughter, Torah, what do you expect the Jews to do? They're having a party, they're having a good time, they're having a meal. What are they supposed to do? She says, why do they have to have music like this? If they know Chumash and they know Tanach, let them say Divrei Torah. What's more beautiful than saying Divrei Torah? Why would you want to sing a verse that nobody really understands in any case, and it becomes about the music and nobody listens to the words, when they could talk about the words and explain the posuk? If they know Mishnayos, they can teach the Mishnah. And if they're Talmidei Chachomim, then at this time of the year they should be talking about Pesach, Bilchos Atzeres Ba'atzeres, Bilchos Chag B'Chag, Shavuos halachas at Shavuos time. They should talk about Sukkos halachas at Sukkos time. He'id Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Mishur Rabbi Shimon ben Chananya, Kol HaKorei Pasuk Bizmano. On the other hand, we have the statement of Rabbi Shimon ben Chananya, if one reads a verse from Tanach in the appropriate time, Mevi Tova L'Olam, that brings goodness to the world. Shnema, as it says, V'davar bi'ito ma tov. That's the posuk from Mishlei at the top of the sheet, where the posuk says, Simcha le'ish b'ma'aneh fiv, which Rabbeinu Yonah in Brochus explains to mean people love to hear their own voice. So when you've got something to say, people like to say it. They like to blurt out what's on their mind. People like to hear their own voice. However, davar bi'ito ma tov, to keep what you have to say till the right time. Timing is everything. You might have a smart thing to say, you might have a clever thing to say, but make sure it's at an appropriate time. That's even better. But our Gemara and Rabbi Shimon ben Chananya learns this to be talking about our discussion here in the use of psukim at a meal or at a party, and that if it's appropriate, if you're quoting a posuk at the right time, and it makes sense It's not just you're sitting at a meal and now you're just singing all songs from all over the place, and it has nothing to do with what's going on around you. If the psukim that you're quoting are relevant to what's happening around you, that brings goodness into the world. Now, the question on the Gemara that we've got to have is, why Shir HaShirim? So afterwards it says, and if you read any posuk in a party as entertainment, mevira al olam, you bring bad into the world. But if you sing Shir HaShirim, that's a specific problem. Explains Rashi, Shekorei binegina acheret she'enu nakudba. That's talking about singing Shir HaShirim to a tune other than the trop that is actually given to us. V'oseh אותו כמין shir, and you make it like lyrics for a song. Afal pi shemishir HaShirim hu v'ikaro shir. Here, this is an important part of Rashi, as you'll see in Reb Moshe Feinstein is Medaik in this Rashi. The reason it says Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, is V'kol shchein, and how much more other parts of Tanakh. Shir HaShirim, which was written as poetry. Shir HaShirim, which was written as a lyric. You can't use as a lyric. So certainly you can't take other parts of Tanakh and use it as lyrics. That's how Rashi learns it. As how Rabbi Moshe Feinstein understands it in Rashi. And it's clear, that's what Rashi says. Afal pishi mishir hashirim uvi karo shir asul lasoto kemין shir ela b'kriyato. If you want to quote from Shir HaShirim, read it, explain it, give pshat in the posuk, but don't sing it, don't make it a lyric. So Rashi learns, and kol shchein other psukim. You certainly can't do that with any other psukim. Again, this has nothing to do with Churban Beis HaMikdash. This has nothing to do with Avilut. This has got to do with trivializing the sanctity of the words of the Torah and turning them into lyrics. However, Akorei pasuk bevet hamishtaot below zmano, if one even reads psukim that are not relevant, b'meisev al yeino עושה sechukotав b'divrei Torah. If you're entertaining people with words from the Torah, this is not even talking about singing the way Rashi learns it. Here we're talking about Akorei. Even if you're saying words of the Torah, one thinks, as we learned yesterday or the day before, we think that even a little bit of Torah is fine, better than nothing. Even Torah learned the wrong way is fine, better than nothing. Even Torah learned in a trivial way is better than nothing. No mevira ad lo'olam. If you trivialize the Torah and you use it for entertainment, you bring badness into the world. For korei psukim b'kol ram, and you talk out psukim in a loud voice, lesachek b'hem b'nei hamishter, to entertain the people at the party. But if it's relevant to what's happening, you go and show Yom Tov. For example, it's Yom Tov. V'notel kos biyado, you take a glass of wine in your hand. V'omer alav divrei haggadah upsukim, and you say divrei Torah, and you bring psukim mi'inyano shel yom, about what's going on, about Shabbos or Pesach or whatever it is. Mevi tov al olam, then you bring goodness into the world. So Rashi takes a very strong view that you can't use psukim as lyrics, not even Shir HaShirim, and certainly not others. Moshe Feinstein says, I don't understand how people do this. We go all over in the parties and people are singing and they're dancing to the psukim. He says, I don't know where it comes from. And he says, even if you want to say that it's not like Rashi, even if you go to Loka Rashi, Shipiresh and Akat Shir HaShirim l'revuta, afal pi shemeshir HaShirim hu v'ikaro shir asur la'asot אותו כמין shor. Even if you say, okay, Rashi is very machmir. Rashi says the Gemara is coming to say, not even Shir HaShirim, and certainly nothing else. Maybe others don't learn that way. Shemashma shekol shchem psukim shel Torah v'chol nevi'im u'chtuvim sh'asur. It seems from Rashi that other psukim definitely you can't. And again, this has nothing to do with the laws of Avilut. This has got nothing to do with mourning for the Beis HaMikdash. This has got to do with trivializing the psukim of the Torah and making them entertainment instead of education, instead of learning, instead of kedusha. Aval afim nimtza pirush kazeh, but even if there is such a pirush, hayalanu lechush lepirush Rashi v'cheinu gam b'nemuke Yosef. Both Rashi and the Nemuke Yosef go the same way. We should be concerned. We should go lechumra. People love quoting Reb Moshe Feinstein when it's lekula. When Reb Moshe Feinstein has an easy way in halacha, what Reb Moshe says. You never hear people saying, Reb Moshe says, no singing, no music at these events. With psukim. You can have music without psukim, but don't use psukim for the music. And he says, I don't know why people take it easy. One needs to find the reason. So let's suggest a reason. What is the basis that people do that? Reb Moshe acknowledges people do it. He just says, I don't know why. what might one of the reasons be? So there's a riff in Brochus. Now, in Brochus, it's talking more about the aspect of mourning, of not doing this since the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. And it says there, one of the things that we say in the Gemara in Brochus is, Zimra befuma asu, you're not allowed to have song in your mouth. Says the Rif, Pirish HaGon, when the Rif quotes the Gon, it usually means Rav Hai Gon. The Rav Hai Gon said, Kegon neginot shel ahavat adam lechavero u'leshabeach yafeh beyofyo. This is talking about secular poetry. This is talking about general lyrics, where you talk about the beauty of a person or the beauty of something or the beauty of love, and that's what it's about. That we don't do. Kegon sheyishmaelin korim lehem asher. It's a word that they have. Rav Ghibli, do you know that word? I don't know what that word is. Aval divrei shirot v'tishbechot v'zikaron chasadav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But says the Rif himself, but if you're praising the Ribono Shel Olam and you're talking about his kindness and the good things he's done, Ein Adam Yisrael nimna mizot u'minhag kol Yisrael omram bevatei chatanim u'vatei mishtaot. There's nobody who doesn't do this. It's a regular practice, says the Rif. It's done at parties and at simchas and at weddings. B'kol neginot, b'kol simcha, with songs and music. V'lo ra'inu misha micha bezot. And we haven't seen anybody object to that. So what the Rif, what does the Rif do with our Gemara? Our Gemara says quite clearly, you can't do it. And I think what the Rif is saying, the problem is with love songs. He actually says with romantic songs. That's the problem. With secular general romantic songs. So I might think Shir HaShirim is also forbidden, because that's what Shir HaShirim is. It's a romantic song of love. Yes, it's meant as a love between Am Yisrael and the Ribono Shel Olam, but it can be misquoted. That's what our Gemara means according to the Rif. It's Dafke Shir HaShirim. So yes, Rashi says it's all music is also, even Shir HaShirim. But according to the Rif in Brochus, I would suggest the Rif is learning the Gemara, our Gemara, specifically Shir HaShirim. I might, because Shir HaShirim is a love song, don't trivialize it and sing it like the non-Jews sing other love songs. You don't use Shir HaShirim for that. But other things, says the Rif, we do this all the time and nobody objects to it, and that could be the source for what Moshe Feinstein is questioning. And we actually have a Yad Ramah who brings this, and doesn't quote the Rif, but he says himself, V'yesh lefarish tahani miliman de karile derech schok. That's if you're doing it as entertainment. Avaman de michven l'shibuche bela Kodesh Baruch Hu derech nigun shapir dami. But if you have the kavona, if you have the intention to be praising the Ribono Shel Olam, that's okay. So the entertainers have to be very careful. According to the Ramah, yes, you can sing and have music at these occasions, but it's not to entertain the people. It's not to get the dancing going. It's not to get ruach. Let's get the ruach going. Come on, everybody, get onto the dance floor. Let's not. That's also, that's not allowed. Certainly if you're using psukim from the Torah. But if you've got kavana, if your intention is to praise the Ribono Shel Olam with the music, that's a completely different thing, and that the Yad Ramah says is permitted, and that would be an expansion of the Rif. So to do general songs, romantic songs, clearly you can't. And Shir HaShirim, since it's a romantic song and could be misused and trivialized, you can't do even if it's for good intention, says our Gemara. But other songs, provided the kavona is l'shibucha be'lekudshei brichu, then you can do it if that's the intention. And so one has to be very careful. There's a great responsibility. That's what's so beautiful when Rav Ghibli entertains, and that's not even the right word, but when you use music to be mashpia on people and to uplift people and to connect them to Torah, it's just too beautiful. But that's you're going like the Ramah and like the Rif. The Shulchan Aruch does bring, based on the Rambam, in the laws of mourning for the Beis Hamikdash, he brings certain things that are allowed and aren't allowed. And then he says, "Chvar nagu kol Yisrael omar divrei tishbachot o shir shel oadot v'zikaron chasdei HaKadosh Baruch Hu." He brings, like the Ramah says, that the minhag is to do this, but again, the condition is that it's done with the right intention. V'chein letzorech mitzvah kigon bebeit chatan v'kala, and if it's a mitzvah such as at a wedding, hakol shari, it's all permitted. However, the Maharil brings, the Mishnah Berurah brings, that the Maharil brings, that's all as far as the mourning is concerned, as far as allowing music. But you still shouldn't say, Shelo kedinu shemisharurim b'mishteh otcha ke'anitani. But you shouldn't just sing psukim, otcha ke'anitani, and you have a song around that. Why are you using a pasuk for that? You want to have music, that's fine. Either use something that's appropriate to the event, and to the time of year, or just have music without words, but to use the psukim of the Torah in order to have the music, says the Maril. Even the way we pass in the Shulchan Aruch, it's not the right thing to do. And that's why the Magen Avraham says the Mishnah Brura, that on Shabbos, the only Zmiris we should sing at the table on Shabbos are the Zmiris in the Siddur. The classical Zmiris, not the psukim that everybody sings. At the back of these benches, you've got all these psukim that everybody now has put to music. Says the Mishnah Brura, and again, everybody quotes the Mishnah Brura. There's certain Mishnah Bruras people don't quote. They keep very quiet about them. If it doesn't suit them, then they don't quote those Mishnah Bruras. The Mishnah Brura says, on Shabbos, you want to sing Zmiris, Koriboin, Tzu Mishaloi. These are the Zmiris to sing. Menucha v'simcha, Yom Zeh Yisrael. These are the things that you're allowed to sing because they're designed for the event, but not just to sing psukim and to put them to music as light entertainment that the Magen Avraham says one's not allowed to do. So we've got these things. There are two principles, the questions of mourning, the question of putting psukim to words. Shir HaShirim is particularly sensitive, and it really depends on the kavanah of the singer. Is he there to entertain, in which case he may not use words from the Tanach, or is he there to connect people to the Rebbeinu Shalom and to daven and to be meshaber, to praise Hashem, in which case it's permitted, but it has to come from that inner place. He has to be very honest with himself, and all the people at the Simcha have to be very honest with themselves. What am I doing? Is this just a substitute for clubbing? We're frum and we can't go to the club, so let's go to a chasana and we can dance and go crazy. That's not. Then don't use psukim for that. You want to use music, it's a shaila whether you can do that with music, but don't use psukim for that. If you're using psukim, it's got to be because you're using the psukim to praise the Rebbeinu Shalom. And I cannot help but quote one of my pet zohars, which is particularly relevant for Gaboim and all the shuls around the world. Says the Zohar, talking about song. If you want to use your voice to praise the Rebbeinu Shalom, whether it's at a wedding, or it's at the Shabbos table, or it's in shul, make sure you've got a good voice. Make sure you're musical and you've got a good voice. To make it pleasant for those who are listening to you. It's not about you, it's about them. It's back to the posuk, Simcha leish b'ma'anei piv. It applies also to singing. Everybody likes to hear their own voice the loudest in shul. They like to shout on top of everybody else to hear their own awful voices, and everybody else has to suffer unless somebody else goes even louder and drowns them out. Love, and if one doesn't have a beautiful voice, lo yokum la'armo kala, don't raise your voice. You don't have to daven before the omud. You don't have to shout out in the singing periods. Just tone it down. Don't subject everybody else to your bad voice and to your lack of musicality. And it's the strangest thing that people who are not musical, people who can't hold a note, are completely tone deaf. They've got no idea that they can't do it. So sometimes you've got to get feedback from people like Simon and things who can hear. You've got to tell people, this is not for you. This is just, stay out of it. Keep quiet. And even for the Gaboim, even when it comes to davening before the Omud, davening before the Omud is a responsibility, not a right. And even if it's a Yotzeit or an Ovel, one has to be qualified. You've got to learn how to do that, to know the Nusach, to know the words, to have a pleasant voice, to be able to inspire and uplift people. Otherwise, it's not a schus for the departed person. I must daven before the Omud because it's my father's Yotzeit. Do you think your father's getting nachas if you're driving everybody crazy and everybody's looking at their watch and saying, when will this be over? When can we get out of this place? That's no schus for the father. If one has to learn how to, you start as an oval, you daven, you start at the end, you do Ashri Yovalitzion, you do Ma'ariv, you learn the Nusach. There's a Friday night Nusach, there's a Shabbos morning Nusach, there's a Musaf Nusach, there's a Mincha Nusach. Do you know the Nusach? If not, keep quiet. Have you got a good voice? If not, sit down. Don't subject others to your desire to hear your voice. Look at the Levim who are there in the Beis HaMikdash to sing. They are professional singers. And it says, at 50 you should retire. You retire at your peak. At 50 you're still singing. Well, retire at your peak. That's it's time to stop. Says the Zohar, you see, even the Levim whose job it is to sing, but only as long as their voice is in good shape, that's when they sing. So the Gaboim should educate people how to do this. It used to be in South Africa, followed the British tradition. They used to hire a chazan and a chazan sheni as a full-time thing. The chazan for Shabbos and the chazan sheni for weekdays. Lay people didn't daven before the Omid, not for Yortzites, not for Avelim. They said Kaddish, but they didn't daven. There were several reasons for it, but this is one of them, because it's hard to say to one person, you can't daven, you can daven. So they just made it nobody davens. The chazan davens, a professional davens. So I'm not suggesting we go as far as that, but it's important to be sensitive to the fact that singing out loud is either a delight and an inspiration for people, in which case it's a big schus, or it's an irritation and an aggravation for people, in which case it's no schus at all. We've all got our talents, but singing is not everybody's talents, and we should use the talents that we have, and we can talk, and we can speak, and we can talk in divrei Torah, and we can teach, and if we have the voice and the musicality, we can of course sing as well.